My friend, let me reveal to you a secret so simple the mind may reject it, yet so powerful it governs all reality. You do not win the lottery by taking action. You win the lottery by listening, not to the world outside of you, but to the world within. For the external is merely a reflection, an obedient servant to the voice you honor internally. Sit quietly. Turn away from what your senses say. The numbers, the odds, the bank account. Ignore it all. Instead, begin to hear the sound of your wish fulfilled. What would it sound like if you had already won? Would you hear the newscaster read your numbers aloud? Would you hear the excitement in a friend's voice, the cashier congratulating you? Would you call someone and say, "You won't believe this, I did it"? That sound, that vibration, that inner audio is the only action required. For when you hear with faith, you create. You may ask, "But shouldn't I go out and buy a ticket?" Hear me now. The body will move of its own accord, compelled by the unseen hand of your belief. But if you act with doubt, the action is empty. If you act in faith, it is done. So do not worry about the ticket. Concern yourself only with the state, because when you listen, truly listen, from the end, you shift your entire consciousness into alignment with that outcome. And when your inner world shifts, your outer world must obey. This is not theory, this is law. You are not waiting on the world. The world is waiting on you to hear rightly. So tonight, lie in bed and play the scene again and again. Hear them say it, hear yourself say it. I won. Let it loop, let it feel real, let the sound sink so deeply into your being that your subconscious cannot distinguish it from fact. And in a way you cannot predict, and at a time you do not expect, the miracle will occur. Not because you fought for it or chased it, but because you listened. Listen as though it has already happened, because in truth, it has. Your outer world is not separate from you. It is not some external force acting upon you at random, nor is it the product of luck, effort, or fate. It is and always has been the mirror of your inner voice, that gentle or chaotic stream of thoughts, assumptions, beliefs, and silent dialogues you carry within yourself is the architect of all that you see. You do not live in a world made of matter, you live in a world made of mind. The people you meet, the circumstances you encounter, the opportunities that seem to come out of nowhere, they all arise from the unseen whisper of your imagination. Most do not realize this, so they spend their lives trying to fix the mirror. They struggle with the reflection, not knowing that the source of all distortion lies behind the glass within them. If you want to win in life, yes, even something as unlikely as the lottery, you must stop trying to alter the scene and start transforming the sound playing in your inner world. Your consciousness is like a radio station. It is always transmitting and always receiving. But the frequency you're tuned into determines what you hear and therefore what you experience. If you're listening to thoughts of lack, doubt, and fear, you will only attract situations that reflect those states back to you. But if you change the frequency, if you begin to tune your inner voice to one of wealth, confidence, and certainty, you will start to see your world morph before your eyes. This isn't about daydreaming or pretending. It's about claiming what is yours by nature, the ability to assume a new identity within. And the moment you accept that your inner voice holds all power, you become free, free from effort, free from trying, free from chasing results in the world of shadows, because you now operate from the source. The lottery is not won in a store. It is won in the secret place of the soul. It is not the number that matters, but the consciousness of being someone to whom wealth naturally flows. To change your bank account, you do not need a second job. You need a new sound within. You must hear the world celebrating your success before the world ever knows it happened. So how do you begin? Quietly, with honesty. You listen to yourself, and then you listen for something greater. You ask, what have I been consenting to? What beliefs am I carrying like baggage in my mind? Have I allowed myself to be hypnotized by the so-called facts of the world? Or have I begun to awaken to the truth that the world is plastic and I am the molder? You must take your attention away from what is and place it on what can be, but more than that. Place it on what already is in the unseen. Speak to yourself as one who already possesses what you desire. Do not ask if it will happen, assume it has. Hear the congratulations, feel the joy, play the inner scene until it becomes more real than the outer one. Because once you change the sound within, once your inner voice begins to declare the reality you seek, the outer world will follow. It must. It has no choice. It is not original. It is obedient. You are not at the mercy of chance or the odds. You are at the mercy of your own voice. So speak with power. Speak as one who already has. And most importantly, listen. Listen to the news story being told within, and you will see it performed in your world. There is a truth so overlooked and yet so liberating that once realized, it will dissolve the chains of effort, exhaustion, and striving. That truth is this: imagination is the only action required. In a world that glorifies the hustle and celebrates the grind, this may sound absurd, but reality does not bend to effort. It bends to belief. It responds not to force, but to frequency. And imagination is the tool through which we align with that frequency. You are not here to struggle for your desires, you are here to imagine them into existence. Everything that has ever appeared in your life began with a thought, a feeling, a picture painted quietly on the canvas of your mind. And if you could trace any outcome, good or bad, back to its origin, you would find it was first formed in imagination. The issue is not that people do not imagine. They do. Constantly. The problem is that they imagine what they fear, what they lack, and what they dread. They imagine worst-case scenarios and then live them out. But you are now invited to use imagination deliberately, not as fantasy, but as creation. To win in life, you must go to the end. Not the beginning, not the middle, but the end, the fulfilled state. See the scene that would play out if your desire had already come true. Don't merely see it, enter it. Feel the texture of it, smell the air of it, hear the words that would be spoken to you. Let it be so vivid, so real, that it awakens emotion. That emotion is the signal that you have moved. Most people imagine and then go back to worrying. They slip in and out of states, unsure, unstable. But when you lock yourself into the state of fulfillment, when you return to it again and again like a favorite song, the world begins to reorganize itself around your inner reality. Imagination isn't idle. It is the most potent force in existence. It sets creation in motion. It summons the people, the circumstances, and the so-called coincidences that bring your desire to life. You may ask, but don't I have to do something? And I tell you, yes, you will act, but not as one trying to make something happen. Your action will be effortless, natural, and intuitive. You will be moved by the feeling within. And because your inner state is one of having already received, your steps will be guided without resistance. The action you take will not be for the purpose of achieving your desire, but as a natural expression of already possessing it. There is no need to force. The universe is not responding to what you want. It is responding to who you are. And who you are is defined by what you accept in imagination. If you see yourself as wealthy, successful, loved, and chosen, regardless of what your senses say, then that state must manifest. It is law. You do not need to push the river. You only need to step into its flow. Imagination is not escape. It is the workshop of reality. It is the sacred chamber where futures are born. And when you visit that chamber with consistency, with clarity, and with feeling, you place an unshakable command upon your world. A command that says, "This is who I am now." So stop chasing, stop striving. The prize is not outside of you. Close your eyes, go within. Dare to imagine what would be true if it were already yours. Rest in that vision. Return to it daily. Let it shape your speech, your posture, your decisions. And watch in quiet awe as the world conforms, not to your work, but to your inner knowing. Is not a wish. It is the seed, and once planted in faith, it must grow. Listening is not passive. It is not the absence of doing. True listening, spiritual hearing, is one of the most powerful acts of creation you will ever engage in. To listen from the end, as if the wind already happened, is to align yourself with a version of reality that already exists in the invisible. And by doing so, you call it into the visible. We often think of creation as action, lifting, pushing, striving, struggling, but the most effortless and effective form of creation begins in stillness. It begins in awareness. To listen from the end is to hear what would be heard if your desire had already been fulfilled. What would your friend say to you? What would you say to yourself? What tone would their voice carry? What excitement would fill the room? This is not imagination for entertainment. It is listening to a future reality until it becomes present within you. Listening from the end bypasses the need for evidence. It removes you from the world of waiting and places you in the world of knowing. It says, I no longer need to see it out there, for I have heard it within. And that hearing, once accepted, is the signal that creation has begun. The world cannot help but comply with the reality you consistently accept. But most people are not listening from the end. They are listening from the middle. They are waiting for results, listening for signs, reacting to what the world says instead of what their soul knows. They listen to fear. They listen to doubt. And in doing so, they amplify those frequencies until they materialize. You cannot tune into two stations at once. If you are listening to lack, you cannot receive abundance. If you are listening to delay, you cannot experience now. So the question becomes, what are you listening to? Spiritual hearing is a discipline. It requires you to turn down the volume of the outer world and tune in to the whisper of the inner one. It means you deliberately close the door on your senses and open the ear of your imagination. And when you do, when you truly hear what you would hear if your prayer were already answered, you enter the most creative state known to man. Creation is not about effort, it is about assumption, and the fastest way to assume a new reality is to hear it until it feels normal. Hear the congratulations, hear the joy in your own voice, hear the quiet knowing that says, of course it happened. It was always mine. And once you hear it clearly, once it no longer feels strange but natural, you have planted the seed. You do not need to beg, you do not need to chase, you only need to hear from the end. And hold that sound within you. Let it become your background music. Let it color your mood, your walk, your words. The world will not know why you seem different, but you will. Because you are no longer listening to the noise of the world. You are listening to the voice of fulfilled desire. And that voice creates. So stop listening to what is. Listen to what is becoming. Listen to what already is in the higher realm and bring it into form by your faith. This is not fantasy. It is law. You are not hoping for a miracle. You are aligning with one that already exists. You don't win by doing more. You win by listening better. The inner sound is the blueprint. When you hear the victory within, the outer world has no choice but to echo it. For life is nothing but the mirror of the sound you accept as truth. And the most sacred sound you can ever hear is the one that says, "It is done." The mind always wants to know how. It craves steps, instructions, guarantees. But the creative process doesn't unfold through logic. It responds not to strategy but to alignment. To detach from the how is not neglect, it is mastery. You are not responsible for the method. You are responsible for the inner state. And that state is determined by one thing: how you feel. If you can feel as though the lottery is already yours, if you can dwell in the inner atmosphere of fulfillment, then the bridge of incidents, however strange, unexpected, or miraculous, will form beneath your feet. But the bridge is not your concern. The conditions are not yours to build. The outcome, however, is yours to claim within. To most people, this feels backward. They are taught to map out steps, to plan the path, to predict the twists and turns. But manifestation does not obey the mind's timelines or tactics. It obeys the heart's assumption. When you feel something deeply and dwell in it consistently, it becomes a command, a decree from the unseen. And that decree reshapes the world to match your frequency. Think of it this way: if the lottery win were already yours, how would you feel? Not in theory, but in sensation. Would there be relief, joy, confidence, peace? The moment you embody that feeling without needing a physical reason to feel it, you have entered the state of the wish fulfilled. And in that state, all things are added unto you. You may say, "But I don't know how I will win." That's perfectly fine. You're not supposed to. The power that breathes life into galaxies doesn't need your assistance. It only needs your agreement. An agreement is emotional. Agreement says, "I accept this outcome as real, and I live in the tone of its truth now." That is alignment. That is creation. When you stop trying to figure out the how, you give the universe room to work. You step out of control and into connection. And connection is what brings about results that logic could never construct. People win the lottery with no explanation, no pattern, no system, because life is not governed by probability, but by consciousness. You may feel the temptation to plan, to calculate, to strategize your way into abundance. But the deeper truth is this: everything you seek is already finished. The outcome you desire exists now. It is not being built, it is. And your only task is to join it through feeling, to merge with it in silence, to rehearse the scene of celebration in your mind, not once, but until it feels natural, until the question when no longer haunts you because you've already received it inwardly. This isn't passive, it is power in its purest form. To feel rich without money, to feel chosen without applause, to feel victorious without proof. This is creation. The mind may resist, it will demand evidence, but the heart knows. The heart believes in what it feels before it sees. And that belief is the key. So take your attention off the how. It does not matter. Feel the gratitude, the joy, the awe, as if it is already done. Feel the congratulations in your own being. Hear the voices celebrating with you. See yourself holding the ticket, reading the numbers, smiling with full body knowing. Let your chest expand with the truth of it. Let it become so normal that you stop asking when. This is not pretending, it is possessing. And when you possess it inwardly, the outer world, by law, must echo the claim. Detach from the how, align with the feeling. It is already done. What you consent to internally becomes the law of your experience. Every moment you are granting permission, either to lack or to abundance, to fear or to faith, to delay or to immediacy. You may not realize it, but the world you encounter is not showing you what is real, it is showing you what you have agreed to accept as real. Consent is not passive. It is a quiet, powerful yes, and every inner yes is echoed in the outer world without exception. If you consent to doubt, your life will deliver reasons to doubt. If you accept delay as inevitable, your reality will stretch and stall, matching your internal timeline. If you believe something is too hard, too unlikely, or too big, then you've told the universe, "This is not mine," and it responds accordingly. You may think life is resisting you, but in truth it is obeying you. You are not a victim of circumstance, you are the author of it. This is not a matter of positive thinking, it is a matter of spiritual authority. You are the operant power in your world, and the signal you broadcast through your inner consent is the magnet of your life. You cannot agree to poverty in thought and expect wealth in form. You cannot entertain conversations of failure, rejection, or scarcity and then wonder why your experience feels so heavy. What you allow yourself to dwell in is what you welcome. But here lies your freedom. Because just as you can consent to limitation, you can also consent to liberation. You can accept ease instead of struggle. You can agree with the idea that things come quickly, that you are already chosen, that money, love, and success are natural to you. And the moment you do, the world begins to shift, not because it changes first, but because your inner atmosphere has. The outer must reflect the inner. That is law. This is why the change must begin in silence. You close your eyes, not to escape the world, but to tune in to the real one, the one governed not by circumstance, but by conviction. You rehearse the feeling of already having it. You hear the compliments, the affirmations, the laughter that follows good news. You nod in agreement with the reality that says, "Yes, I've won, it's mine," and that nod, that sacred yes, is a contract. The world will fulfill it. You must become radically aware of what you are consenting to throughout your day. Are you entertaining stories of delay? Are you nodding along with the voice that says it's too late, too difficult, too far away? Or are you agreeing with the one that knows, deeply, quietly, confidently, that it is already done? Consent is choice. It's not about what shows up in your life right now, it's about what you accept as possible. And possibility bends toward belief. Say yes inwardly to wealth, and watch how quickly things rearrange. Say yes to love, and notice how the world grows warmer. Say yes to winning without needing to justify it, and reality cannot help but comply. The world is not resisting you, it is mirroring your internal agreement. If your experience feels dry, heavy, or disappointing, check the consent form you've signed in thought. What have you been allowing in? What mood have you been marrying? You don't need to force the outer to change. You need only withdraw your consent from what you don't want and give it fully to what you do. The moment you say yes in spirit, the material must follow, not maybe, must, because your inner world is not just a reflection of who you are, it creates who you are becoming. So withdraw your yes from doubt, revoke your permission for lack, and consent fully and without hesitation to the version of life that thrills you. For what you consent to internally, you invite and eventually experience externally. Not to escape reality, but to enter the true place where reality is formed. Shut out the noise of the visible world and tune your hearing inward, where the true power resides. In that stillness, you'll hear it, the voice, the tone, the sound of your fulfilled desire, and once you hear it clearly, all that is left is to live in it, over and over. That is the secret. There is a sound to success, a sound to joy, a sound to victory. And that sound exists now, not in the future, not in a distant someday, but now, within the theater of your inner ear. Most people are waiting for the outer event before they allow themselves to hear it. But those who create, those who manifest with ease, are not waiting. They listen first, they listen now, and they remain in the sound of fulfillment until the outer must conform. Close your eyes and hear your name being called. Hear the words, "You did it, you actually won, I'm so proud of you." Let them echo not as fantasy but as fact. Let the tone be real, rich with emotion, steeped in authenticity. Don't imagine flat words, imagine the feeling behind them. Hear the tears of joy, the laughter, the disbelief turned into wonder. Hear your own voice say, "I knew it. I always knew this was mine." And once you hear it, remain there. Linger. Make it your dwelling place. Just as a singer becomes one with a song, become one with the sound of your accomplished goal. Live in it. Walk around in it, build your inner home in it. The more you visit that inner soundscape, the more it becomes your dominant vibration. And once it becomes dominant, the outer world must catch up. Do not underestimate this power. Spiritual hearing is not passive. It is not idle daydreaming. It is construction. Every time you hear the sound of your fulfilled desire, you are laying the bricks of a new reality. And every brick laid in imagination must eventually form in the outer world. For the world you see is only a delayed echo of the world you've built inside. Many spend their energy trying to make the outer shift, chasing, striving, forcing, but the wise turn inward. They understand that true movement happens in silence. You could spend years trying to make something happen out there and nothing would change. But spend 10 minutes deeply immersed in the sound of fulfillment and reality begins to bend. It cannot help it. The outer has no choice but to reflect the inner. So, when doubt arises, return to the sound. When fear whispers its lies, drown it out with the voice of truth. The voice that congratulates, that celebrates, that confirms what you already know, it is done. When circumstances look unchanged, close your eyes and hear the moment of arrival again. Over and over, until it is more real than the current condition. This is not pretending, it is preparation. You are training your system to match the reality you have claimed. And once your inner world is saturated with the sound of fulfillment, your outer world must reveal what you've been hearing all along. You do not beg for the outcome. You don't hope, wish, or wait. You hear. And through hearing, you become. Through becoming, you receive. It is that simple. It is that profound. So live there. Live inside the sound of your fulfilled desire. Don't just visit it once. Return daily, hourly, whenever you feel pulled back into the noise of lack. Let the sound of success be louder in your mind than any report from the outer world. For what you hear within, with faith and feeling, becomes the music your life begins to play. You do not win the lottery by force, by chasing numbers, or by bending the outer world to your will. You win by aligning inwardly, by listening to the sound of fulfillment until it becomes your dwelling place. Every shift begins within. The outer world is simply an obedient mirror reflecting back the inner frequency you hold. When you stop needing action and start embodying the feeling, when you listen as though it has already happened, and when you detach from the method and live in the mood of the wish fulfilled, you invite the miraculous without strain. You are not here to beg. You are not here to struggle. You are here to imagine boldly, to listen deeply, and to consent inwardly to the reality you choose. And once you have done that, you stand still and let the world arrange itself around your inner truth. The win is not something to get. It is something to accept. Thank you for listening. Stay still, stay faithful, and above all, stay inside the sound of your fulfilled desire.